Hello, how are you all doing? Welcome back to another episode of We Are Here Too, a podcast about mental health and moving abroad. If you're new to the podcast, my name is Francesca. I am an Italian counsellor living in Scotland. And today we are going to talk about remembering our whys. Always been fascinated by the concept of I need to remember my why and then I would be okay. I've heard of this so many times, so many times here, there, everywhere, and at the beginning it was not really clear to me. I could not make sense of it, and then eventually I realized, oh wait a second, I framed this in a different way than just I need to remember my why and everything is going to be fine. I was framing it in terms of I need purpose, I need direction. I don't feel like that the reasons that brought me here are the same ones that I have now, and I feel a bit lost. Ultimately, I learned that remembering my why was a way for me to stay connected to my most inner desires and purpose and motives, wherever push me to lead the life that I'm living right now is still there. And the question has always been is it still there? Do I still go by and abide those desires and motives and purpose? Is it still fueling me and feeding me and giving me that fire that makes me feel yes, I can stay here, I can go through hurdles and overcome them? At times it wasn't that way. I felt incredibly crushed by everything and lost my purpose and not know where I was and why I was there. And many times I thought maybe this life is not for me. Maybe I just need to be home and with my family and feel like everything is going to be all right, even when I'm back in Italy. And at times that was really saddening me, because it almost felt like that realization came with a bittersweet. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot in there, a lot that needs unpacked, and very, very conflicting emotions. And for sure, we're going to touch on this next week when we're talking about imagine the possibility of going back to our home country after a time spent abroad. But in this episode, it's more about trying to, I suppose, understand and consider and question ourselves on what is it that is giving us sense and is allowing us to be in the here and now and keep on fighting even when things are pretty hard. Because let's admit it, living abroad is challenging. It's challenging for a series of reasons, and they can go from feeling uprooted, not understanding the language, feeling isolated and struggling to understand the new system altogether, facing discrimination and missing familiarity and cultural cues and being shocked by what it is, and having this sense of guilt that we talked about before, and having our boundaries pushed and pulled and finding a way to finding our limits. And sometimes it's so incredibly exhausting. Remembering our why is a form of self-awareness, and we are aware through our mind and body. There's been for a very long time a sense for me of I'm going abroad because I want to speak another language and I want to get to know new cultures and I want to experience the world and blah 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 blah, right? Which I'm in no way criticizing that, but it felt like it was a lot of noise. It was layers and layers of something that, it made sense on the surface, but ultimately something else was going on for me. And it was only until I managed to uncover that, and making room and space for what's underneath, and sweeping away all the clutter that I created on top of that. And that process was incredibly painful. But once I managed to do all of that job, all of that work, I actually realized I just needed to find myself again. I needed to have a sense of purpose that was like more than what I felt I had at the time. I just needed to go back to my own body and reconnect and feel alive. And once I connected to that, I was like, oh yes, I actually made it. I'm here. This is what living abroad means to me. And for as long as I stay connected to that purpose, I'm okay. And then, of course, life happens. Purposes change, and when I realize, okay, maybe there is something more for me, and I need to explore it, and okay, let's start that journey again. Of course, like I wish I could say, yes, I realized it immediately, and I put something in place to work through it, and the process was smooth. Oh no, like, I wish the process was that smooth. But so my question for me to you is, what it is that noise? What it is creating so much noise that in this moment you're struggling to connect to your why, and you're struggling to find the reason why you actually want to be here and connect, and like fight your battle and move on. What is it? Can you hear it? Can you see it? Can you see what's cluttering it? When we connect to our why, we are basically making it easier to find meaning in our life when external expectations and pressures make our day-to-day hard. There's been numerous times where I felt like I did not know what to do, and I considered all sorts of options. And it's also true, like, I'm not sure if any of you relate to this, but at times I felt like, oh, okay, I'm struggling here. I need to move elsewhere, which didn't necessarily meant for me to go back to Italy. It was just, like, to another step in another direction, because I felt like I was at a dead end. And at times because that decision was made when I did not know what was happening with me. Like, it felt like a bit of a chaos, and I wasn't feeling really grounded anywhere. And I just needed a change. And in a way, it was almost looking like I was trying to run away from something. And it's true, like, the stressors that we carry with us, from a place to another, they just don't go away because we're moving. They just stick to us. And sometimes because we move to a new country, and everything is new, and maybe like life feels a bit better, we may not remember those stressors, but they're still there. Eventually they're gonna pop up, right? Like, some situations may feel a bit better, some others may not feel that great. And what do we do with those stressors? And if we are not connected to our why, those stressors are going to swallow us. And so, like, what if we can take a step back? And what if we can actually think about, like, what is it that we need? What is it that we really need today to reconnect to that part of us that, that is less scared, braver, and feels like, okay, I can do this. That part of us that feels stronger, and it's difficult to most times connect to that. It's more difficult when we are in a different country sometimes because of all of these extra barriers that we had to face with, and but it's possible. It's really possible. There are a few things, I suppose, that could be put in place. Sometimes it's about consider and reevaluate what your passions are and what it is that brought you to a certain place. And as I mentioned before, if we remove the clutter and all this noise, what else is there? And just lean into this, because that is what brought you there. Is it still valid, or do you need something else to make you work? Another way would be to explore what your strengths are. Mine was about being incredibly adaptable to everything. I don't know how that came about, but it's there. I know I can adapt. I know I'm very flexible in so many ways, and I know that I can make things work for myself. And that really helped me to stay afloat whilst I was trying to basically find out what it is my direction, what it is my why really here. And last but not least, I found experimenting incredibly interesting. That may look like exploring different pathways and different ways of doing things, and see what sticks. And if it feels easy, most likely it's because it is, and it needs to be. And on this note, I am concluding here today's episode. Stay tuned for next week one. It's all going to be about what if I'm failing the thing of living abroad. I hope you're going to enjoy it. And if you liked what you've heard so far, please support me by sharing with loved ones and promote it on your social media, and leave a review. If only I knew how to leave a review on Spotify, I would recommend it to people, but at the moment I don't know. I have no clue. But if someone knows, please send me a message on one of my social media so I can actually spread the word and start having reviews, right? Okay, guys, thank you for listening. Until next time, bye.